Hi, everybody. This is Virginia Milner coming to you for the DeKalb County Library. And we're going into some cooler weather. I got a sweater on, very lightweight one, but we're going into some cooler weather. So I thought I would do something pretty that is going to segue us out of the warmer temperatures of summer and head into fall. So I got some beautiful glass pearls and crystals, and I thought that we could use that to make a three-strand necklace. It's very lightweight. And I think it's going to be very pretty. Actually, I know it's going to be very pretty. I put it together and took it apart so I could do it on camera. So it's going to take very minimal supplies. It's going to take your usual tools, your round nose pliers. The barrels are round all the way around. They start wider at the bottom and taper off to almost a tip at the top. We've got our square nose pliers. They're both slightly round and slightly square on the outside. It's a little confusing sometimes when I have someone in class who isn't familiar with the tools, and I say, which one is your round nose pliers? And a lot of times they'll pick these up because they've got rounded edges, which makes sense. But if you look on the inside of the pliers, it's completely flat. When you go buy these for yourself, make sure you get the ones that don't have those little ridges on the inside, because that will chew up your wire and defeat the whole purpose of your piece. You don't want that, unless you do want that. The third thing that you're going to need is a pair of cutters. You can use this kind of pair of flush cutters. I got another pair over here somewhere, or you can get it off my little hanging thing. This kind, either one is fine. They both do the same thing. We're just going to use them to cut wire and chain today. That back up. And we're going to be using 24 gauge wire, chain of your choice. The chain that I'm using, the little links on it are 3 by 4 millimeter. So it's a small chain. It's not a great big chain. It's a kind of a delicate chain because I'm going to use these little pearlized glass beads. They're very lustrous. I love them. And I've also got some beautiful, beautiful crystals that we're going to be using, some bicones. I'm using 5 millimeter. You can use 5 or 6 millimeter. It's up to you. My pearl beads are 8 millimeter. And I'm going to use these little caps. You'll be able to see this better down there on the map, but I'm using these little bead caps just to give my pearls a little bit of embellishment. I think that's it. That's all we need. Make sure you have a little ruler so that you can measure everything out, and some jump rings. That's it. So let's go ahead and get down here to the mat and get started on our pretty piece for the day. Okay, the first thing that I'm going to do is decide what size I want my necklace to be, what length I want them to be. And I'm starting with an 8. The shortest one is going to be 18-inch drop, and the next one's going to be 20, and the next one's going to be 22. You can do that same thing, or you can adjust it to the length that you would like. I also think it would be pretty to start shorter, but a lot of people don't necessarily like their necklace right up against their neck. So I'm going to start with what is the traditional necklace length, which is 18, and then I'm going to go 2 inches longer with the next two strands. So the first thing that I did was measure out some some chain here. I got 18 inches. And you've also got to take into consideration that you're going to be adding a clasp. So that's going to lengthen it as well, but you can change that later if you need to. So I've got about 18 inches here of chain for the shortest length. I'm going to cut that in half. You can either just measure 9 inches or you can put your little tips together and cut it in the middle, which is what I'm going to do. So just grab my cutters, slide that down to the middle of my chain here at the bottom. Come on, get in there. There we go. Right down here in the middle. And I'm going to cut that link in the middle there. I find it easier to cut from the center of my pliers instead of trying to use the tip. Just cut the whole chain right in the middle. If you try to cut the little end of it, a lot of times it doesn't work. It depends on how sharp your pliers are, your cutters, and it depends on whether or not you don't a lot of time get as good a grip on the tip. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this. I'm putting it down in this little well. Can't see, my hand's in the way, because if I cut this just like this, little shards of chain are going to go flying all over the place. And I really don't want that. So I'm going to put it down in this little well here, cut it. Oh, see, it bounced out. So I should have put my hand over it. But you've got to be careful with that too, because if it'll bounce, it can wedge itself in your hand. So many things that you have to think about. Anyway, I've got my 2 strands now. And now I'm ready to start on my beads. I'm going to measure this just to make sure it's as close to the same on both sides as possible. And if I need to make an adjustment, I will. Oops, I'm 1 link off. 1 link. Let's go back and double check. Yep, that side is even. Let's cut off that 1 little link. Actually, 2 links. Let's cut that off. And I'm going to hold that one. There. See all those little pieces? They can go flying everywhere. I really don't want that. All right, so now I have the first length of my chain, length, Length. So I'm going to grab a bead. I'm using the pearlized purple beads. I'm going to grab a couple of these bead caps, and you have to be systematic about this because I'm going to connect it directly to the chain. I'm not going to be using jump rings, so I have to wrap it to the chain, and I'll show you what I mean. So I don't need much for this. This bead is 8 millimeters, which is about little more than a quarter, maybe 3/8 of an inch. And then I've got my little cap, so I'm going to say 1/2 an inch at the most. And then I need about an inch or so on either side. Actually, only about 1/2 an inch, but I'd rather have a little bit too much. And then if I have too much, I can wrap it as much as I want. So I'm going to give myself 2.5. Let's see, 1, 2. I'm going to give myself 2 inches. 2 inches. Sorry, I'm measuring over here where you can't see. And let's see how that does. So my beads won't take up more than 1/2 an inch. So I'm going to go ahead and right here, that's maybe 3/4 of an inch down. Let me measure. Yeah, about 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to bend over to the side at about a 45-degree angle, just like that. Grab my round nose pliers. I'm sorry, I've got a little frog in my throat. I'm going to slide my wire about 1/4 of the way down my pliers because I don't need too big a loop. I want my loop to be about the same consistency and size as my chain. And my chain links are not that big. So this doesn't need to be this big whopping loop. I want it to kind of segue and kind of merge into the chain gracefully instead of being very apparent that there's a break leading to the beads. Okay, so I've slid my wire about a quarter of the way down my pliers. All pliers aren't created equal, so you'll have to determine where you want yours to go. But for me, quarter of the way down my pliers, I'm going to bring the wire over the top and down the side of my wire until they're both running parallel. Then I'm going to move this bottom barrel out of the way, the one that doesn't have wire on it, because I don't want to bring the wire around that barrel. So I'm going to open my pliers without moving my wire, move that barrel out of the way, and then bring that short tail of wire around until I have a loop. So there's my little loop right there. Let's see here, get this little clearer. That's better, but I'm going to put this down a little closer. What's that? There we go. Okay, and now I'm going to attach it to my chain. Before you do any wrapping, you want to attach it to your chain. So I'm going to attach this to the last link on my chain. And I've got this right up against the other wire. So I need to lift it away from that other wire just a little bit so I have a little space in there so I can slide this last link of chain down and into the loop like so. And then push it back together and I'm ready to wrap. See how short a tail I have? 3/4 of an inch. Just enough to wrap that around. I don't want too many wraps. I don't necessarily want to see a lot of wire. So I'm going to give it one full wrap around. And then 1/2 a wrap around. And then by the time I cut this off and push it down, that'll be another 1/2 wrap. Actually, I might not have to cut it off. Yes, I have just enough to push down. Push that little tip down. There we go. And I'm ready to put my beads on. Oh, I don't know why I always get a frog in my throat when I'm doing these. So I'm going to grab this little bead cap. It's just a little flower cap. Isn't that pretty? Come on, there we go. Sometimes can't find the focus. And then I'm going to go ahead and slide that on my wire. A little center opening. Slide my bead on. See, isn't that pretty? And slide my other cap on. There we go. Now I'm going to make another loop on the other side. So I'm going to bend my wire again, about 45-degree angle. Grab my round pliers. Slide my wire about 1/4 of the way down my pliers. Make my loop, bring that over the top of the pliers and down the side of my bead. Hold on to everything, reposition my pliers, and bring that tail of wire between the bead and the pliers, like so, until I have a loop. And I'm going to grab the other 1/2 of my chain, slide that wire inside the loop, and then slide the loop of my chain inside the loop of my wire. Boom. There we go. And now let's wrap it. Wrap it closed. One time around, 2 times around, well, 1.5 times around. And then by the time I cut this off, because this is a little longer, I'll have just enough to make it another full half turn round. Okay, get really close to the loop, but don't cut your loop. Cut that off, get rid of that little tip, and push that tail down. In fact, I'm going to cut it a little bit closer. I've got more than I want to see there. I like my tip to end up right in the middle of my loop. For some reason, I think it not only looks better, but there's less chance that it will catch on something. If it's off on the side, for some reason, it seems like it catches on things over there. Okay, so snip that off. I did not shield it. Bad, bad, bad. But it didn't go very far, so that's good. Grab my square pliers, push that little tip down. It's nice and snug. Nice and snug against the other wire. And sometimes it'll drift up. Just push it back down. Show it who's boss. Tell it where to go. Namely, under my loop. There we go. Nice. So this is my first tier. Yes. Okay. So my second one, the first one I just wanted a pearl. The second one I wanted to add a little bit more. So I'm going to put a pearl and 2 5mm crystals, bicone crystals on one on each side. So I'm going to be linking these together so I can go ahead and complete the center bead. And then I'm going to link it to these 2 beads. And then I'm going to link these 2 beads to my chain. Ah, so I guess I need to cut my chain in half, don't I? Now, when I first did this, I just went ahead and put everything on the open side, and then I was going to cut it later, but I think I'll go ahead and cut that into 2 pieces so I don't have to think about that. Okay. I guess I should do it where you can see it, but you saw me do it before. Put my little 2 ends together. And that so I don't bump it. And let's just cut that. In the middle. Okay, and again, I'm going to go right down to the middle of my pliers. I'm going to cut that entire loop. I'm going to put my hand over it this time and hope that it doesn't. I'm not going to do that. I really think that's dangerous. So I'm going to put it down in here, and I'm going to put my hand over the pliers so the pliers can block the flying chain. Am I cutting? Okay. Oh, I got 2 caught in there. Get out of there. Okay. Yeah. These little tips off. Look at that. They're all down in there. I love it. And let's check it out. Make sure it's even. And one easy way to do it is to just string both of these last loops on and then hold it up and you can see what you've got. And once again, I'm 2 links off. So let me cut that off. This one is the 20-inch one. Gonna be adding back another inch or so when I put my clasp on. So all right, there we go. Now that that's all ready to receive my beads, let's go ahead and wrap my pearl, get my little bead caps, some wire. Once again, what did I do before? 2.5 inches. Let's do that again. That was plenty. 2.5 inches. Okay, let's bend that over to the side. Grab my round nose pliers. Make my loop over the top, down the side. Move this bottom barrel out of the way again. Just shift it. Bring that tail under 2 barrels like that. Got a loop now. Add it to my chain. Before I go any further, make sure you're in that last link of your chain. Slide it down into, let's move that apart, right into my loop. Now I can wrap it. And I like to use my pliers as a guide to wrap that straight around. The first one goes right around near the top of the loop, or near the bottom of the loop. The next one goes right under it. So 1.5 loops like I did before. Cut that little tail off. Now be careful, you don't want to accidentally catch any other part of your wire in there, or your loop, or your chain before you cut. So make sure you look and make sure nothing else is caught in there. Believe me, I've done it. It's not pretty doing the ugly cry because you cut a hole in your loop. Not pretty, not fun. Okay, let's push that little tip down. Look at that. It went down there. That's not where I wanted you to go. You're supposed to be up here, beside the other wraps. Stop that. Just have to get in there, bring it back to where it's supposed to be. These things happen. Just redirect it. Get back up there. There we go. Okay. Push that down against the other wraps. And grab my bead. Well, let's grab a cap first. A little bead cap on. And my pearl goes on top of that. And then the other bead cap. And make sure that the sloped part, the little well part, the little dip, is closest to your bead. So it just kind of curves right around your pearl. Isn't that pretty? I love these. Just adds a little embellishment. So now I'm going to bend my wire over again, about a 45-degree angle, slide my wire down about a quarter of the way down my pliers, bring that wire over the top of my pliers and down the side of my bead, reposition my pliers and work that wire between the bead and the pliers. Before I go any further, I need to add that other chain. Let's add that on. Slide that down until it's right inside my loop. Okay. Now, usually when I'm wrapping, I like to use my square pliers, but because this is such a tiny loop, it's kind of hard to get in between the chain and the bead with those bigger pliers. So I'm just using my round nose pliers. And time to wrap, wrap. 1.5 times around and cut. And I like to put a little curve in my wire so that when I am pushing it down, my wire's already going in the direction that I want it to go instead of sticking straight out. And then I have to direct it around there with my pliers. That makes it a little bit easier if I already have a little curve. Okay, let's get in there, make sure nothing else is in the way, and snip it. All right. Grab my square pliers and push that end down. I just wanted to hug the other wraps. And check with my finger, make sure it's not sticking out there, ready to scratch me. And you know what I did? This was not supposed to be attached to the chain. This was supposed to be attached to these beads. Why? Okay, so what I'm gonna do is lose a couple of links because I'm just gonna cut these off instead of re-wrapping. So I'm just gonna cut these links off of here. And I hope nobody's just doing this as I go. That off. And I'm going to add my crystals. Now, if you don't want to use the crystals, this would have been just fine. You could have had, cut that. You could have had just 2 of these. You can make 3 of these if you want, but that's not the design I had in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and add my crystals on here. And the way I'm going to do this is going to be to grab another piece of wire. I'm going to go again for 2.5 inches, even though this is slightly smaller. That's okay. It'll just be a sliver that I lose, so I'm going to be fine with that. Let's cut that off. Let's go ahead and cut the second one off. In preparation for both of my crystals. All right. I'm going to be attaching these to my pearl. So again, I'm going to bend my wire at a 45-degree angle, grab my round nose pliers, make my loop. Here we are. Make my loop. Okay. And now I'm going to attach it to my pearl. Just slide the loop on top of my pearl inside the open loop and wrap it closed. Again, I'm using my pliers as a guide for the first wrap and then going just beside that first wrap with the second wrap. I just want them nice and close together so I have a nice little coil. 1.5 times around, give myself that little curve that I like, and then cut off that tail as close as I can get it. Check, make sure that's not in there. Snip that off, that little tip out of the way, and push that end down. There we go. Now let's add my crystal. Go over to the other side and put my 45-degree bend in. I'm leaving a little bit of space so that there's a little bit of movement between my crystal and my wraps. It doesn't have to be right against it. Don't worry if there's a little bit of space there. Okay, let's make my loop. And before I wrap it, I'm going to add this side to my chain. So the first strand has the pearl connected to the chain. My second strand has my crystal connected to my chain on one side and my pearl on the other side. Let's wrap that around once and a half. And cut. Oops. And be very careful because these crystals, well, they're crystals and you don't want to break anything. Snip that off, get rid of that excess. And you want to be very careful when you're pushing this tip down because you don't want to crack your crystal. So just be careful about the pressure that you use when you're pushing this down. This is 24 gauge wire. It's very, very soft and malleable. So you don't have to put a lot of weight behind it. Just ease the tip down and out of the way. There we go. So there's one side, and let's do the other one. So again, I'm going to bend my wire, do my wrap, add my other half of my chain, these little pieces out of the way. Actually, I'll put it on here first and then I'll add the other half of my chain. So attach this side with my pearl. You can do it the other way if you want, add the other half of the chain and then attach it to the pearl, just as long as they get attached. That's all that matters. Okay, let's wrap that tail around 1.5 times. Ow. Oh, I did that again. Hi. I'll be back. Okay. The story is try to keep your fingers away from the tip of your wire. Oh, that kind of hurt. Because you don't want to stab yourself. This wire is very deceptively thin, but it's also very sharp. It's like a little needle. So you've got to be a little soft needle. So you've just got to be careful when you're working with it. Okay, I'm scared. Okay, let me wrap that the way around. The rest of the way around. I think I already had my wraps. Okay, so now I just need to snip that off. Get straight there. And push down the end. Let me get rid of that. Push down that little tiny tip. I don't want sticking up. There we go. Let's add my pretty purple crystal. Bend over to the side. I'm leaving a little space there. Bend it. And I want both of my loops to be going in the same direction. And if they're not, you can easily correct that. Just twist them until it's going the same way. So when I bend that, I want to bend it in the same direction that this one's going. So this one's going right to left. I'm going to bend this right to left. Even just a little bit of space there for my wrap. Grab my round nose pliers. Slide that down a quarter of the way down my pliers. Take it over the top. And around. I had to check. I wasn't sure. I thought, did I turn the recording back on? Yes, I did. I would hate for to be doing all this and you guys aren't there. All right, let's slide on that other half of my chain. And that little last loop. Last loop of the chain down into the open loop of my wire. Get down in there. There we go. And grab my round nose pliers. Slide it there over my loop and wrap that around to close it off. It's one wrap and a half. Cut that off as close as I can get. Careful of your crystal and your wire and everything else. There we go. And push that tip down. Okay, there we go. And again, be careful of your crystal. You don't want to crack the top of that. There we go. So there is my second tier. There's my first tier. And there's the second. Yes. Okay, so those are my two tiers. Now the third one is going to be along the same lines, except that I'm adding beads on every tier. So the first one, I just have my pearl. My second one, I have a pearl and two crystals. And my third one, which I've already done because I thought this would be too repetitive for you to watch me do this over and over. I've got my pearl, my two 5 millimeter crystals, and two 4 millimeter crystals. And that is my third tier. Or should I say strand? So those are my three strands of my necklace. Yeah. So now let's put them together. What I like to do, because it depends on how you wrap as to how much space this is going to take up. So what you might want to do is take a beadboard and put them on there. First, you can measure your strands to make sure they're the length that you want. I want my shortest one to be 18, my second one to be 20, and my third one, my longest one, to be 22. So let's just measure and see what we have. So if I put it on this beadboard, it's telling me, hurry it up. If I put it on this beadboard, I want this 22-inch one to go up to the 11s on each side. And you can see it's a little past that because I added these beads, and they're taking up about a good 2.5 inches of what I had. So I'm going to cut a little bit off of each side so that I can get that back down to my 22 inches. So I want it up to the 11 on both sides, on each side. So I'm going to cut that off. Okay. And same on the other side. Let's cut that off. Get these little bits off of there. Get off of there. There. Okay, check that out. Good. Very good. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. And then the second one, let's go ahead and just slide it in this one. Now, when you're for measuring purposes, you need to go ahead and measure on this outer track because that will give you an accurate measurement. But if you want to see how it's going to look, lay it out on your beadboard in the little tracks, one above each other. And you'll be able to see how it's going to look when you finish. Okay. Third one. Lay that out. And there we go. Oh, isn't that pretty? Let's turn it around so you can get better look. I don't know if that's upside down or not. It's upside down to me. This is the way I see it. Oh, pretty. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish it off. All we need now is to put it on jump rings and put on our clasp. Okay, let's take that off of there. 1, 2, 3. Move my beadboard. That's good. Clasp, a lobster clasp is what I'm going to use. And some jump rings. All right, so what I'm going to do is lay this out the way it's supposed to be. There's the bottom. This middle one, I'm going to measure again just to make sure it's the length that I want. And 20. And I'm not gonna, yeah, I'm gonna leave it the way it is. So I think it's good. I could have taken off a couple of links, but I think it's just fine the way it is. A couple of links is only going to be maybe 1/16 of an inch difference. So that's fine. Let me see something here. Why does that look so long? 10. Thirteen, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Oh, that's right. This. Yes. Yeah, okay. One. I'm just measuring, sorry. Just measuring. Okay. I should do this off camera so you don't have to sit through it, but it'll be fine. And the third one, it should be 18 inches. Yes. Okay. Okay, there we are. I think I'm going to cut this little center one down just a little bit. So you can look at it, see if it looks the way you want it to look. That over there where you can see. Just lay that out. And then you're going to add it to your jump ring. The biggest thing that you want to make sure of is that you put it in the jump ring in order. So the longest one is going to be on the outside. The middle one is going to be in the center. And the shortest one is going to be on the inside. So what I'm going to do is grab a jump ring. I'm going to open it up. And the proper way to open your jump ring is to twist it open. You don't want to pull it apart. You want to twist it. This is a little bit overlapped, so I need to get it to the point where both of my little tips are together like that. And then I'm going to twist it open. Like so. Then I'm going to slide my longest chain in first. Right there on that last loop. And then I'm going to put my middle chain second. Again, sliding it on my last loop. Where's my camera? There we go. And then my middle chain goes on last. Or my top, yes, my first chain goes on last. So the longest one is the bottom, the center, and the top. Go on like that, just like that. Then I'm going to close it up. Twist it back closed. And move on to the other side. So I'm going to open that up. Make sure my little tips are together. Like so. Twist it open. Slide on the center or the top. I guess I could call this the first shortest length, and then the middle length, and then the third length. And my little clasp. Slide that on the other side. Close that up. Make sure the tips are together. And there we have it. And there's my necklace. Let's put it on. Let's put it on the display so that you can see it properly. There is our necklace, and isn't that charming? Oh my gosh, look at those. Those crystals are so sparkly. Woo! Isn't that pretty though? It's just so kind of understated, very, very classic and classy, I think. Ooh, and it kind of goes with my sweater. I ought to put it on. What do you think? Should I put it on? That is so neat. I love this. I hope you like it. Yes, so much. So there is our three-tiered pearl and crystal necklace. I hope that this takes you all the way into Christmas. Excuse me. Those of you who get kits will have your pearls, you'll have your crystals. You can do this arrangement any way you want. You don't have to do it exactly the way I did. You can do it any way you want. But this is just what I did. And I have to tell you, I love it very much. So I hope that you enjoyed this as much as I'm going to enjoy wearing this necklace. Until next time, I hope that you'll get in touch with me between now and the next one. You can contact me with at Jewelry with Jen. That's Jewelry. No, wait a minute. Jewelry Jen. Jewelry Jen at gmail.com. I'm sorry, I'm distracted. That's JEWELRYGIN20 at gmail.com, jewelrygen20 at gmail.com. You can leave comments on the library, the Calf County Library Facebook page. That's facebook.com/DeKalb Library, spelled DeKalblibrary. And you can also leave pictures there too. I would love to see your pictures because I really, really want to see what you do. The other place that you can leave comments only is the YouTube page, which is youtube.com/DeKalb County Public Library. You have to do the whole thing. That's DeKalbCountyPublic, and you can leave comments there, give us a like, a thumbs up, and let us know what you did like, what you didn't like. I need to hear that too. And also give me some suggestions of what you would like to see in the future. I'm really rooting for you to do that because I really kind of feed off your comments. So until next time, I hope you enjoy wearing this necklace if you get a kit and make one. But until next time, have a great week, have a great weekend, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.